I spent 1 month in Puerto Vallarta. Today I'm going to share with you what I loved, what I wish I had done differently, and how much I spent, because that was surprising even for me. Now I should start off by saying I did not think I would stay in Puerto Vallarta for so long. The original intention was to stay a few days, but it was September, the end of low season. There was fantastic weather, but also no crowds. And so we thought, why don't we stay longer? And that's kind of how I live my life. Now, if you're new to this channel, let me give you a little bit of background. I run a website called Bacon is Magic, which is about the best food around the world and international recipes. And for the last 15 years, I have been traveling. I first started in Mexico and traveled down to Argentina in 2010. And since then, I've been to Mexico so many times. But after COVID, I went to Asia. I met my partner, Alan, who's Indonesian, and I said to him, 2025, it is the time to go back to Mexico. I really want to share with you this country. Now, we have a long-term goal of perhaps splitting our time 50% in Asia, 50% in the Americas. And so this trip of 6 months throughout Mexico is not only just about tourism, but to find where could be a place that we settle down longer term. And I want to state the obvious. You know, we are looking for somewhere to settle down, but you don't know what a place is truly like in just a month. I think it takes at least a year. But I do think that going to different places for a month gives you a bit of a sense of what it would be like, because you move from vacation mode to more everyday activities. And this is exactly what we saw in Puerto Vallarta. For many people, this is a holiday destination, but we really wanted to experience what would it be like if we lived here. And we actually learned a lot. Let's talk about the things that I loved, because there were really so many. Now, I think visiting in September is the perfect month. At least it was for us. It is still technically low season, but we found that locals were very chill. It's a West Coast kind of vibe, different than the Mayan Riviera. We didn't have to wait in line for anything. We didn't need reservations. It was really the perfect time. I highly recommend it. The second reason is it is also amazing weather. So technically it is the end of rainy season, but we did not experience rain or weather impacting our travels at all. So other than 2 days of rain that we had over 30 days, for the most part, it would rain between 4 and 7 p.m. for maybe half an hour. So you could spend some time out during the day, come back home for a couple of hours, and then go back out at night. It was really kind of perfect. But the number one reason that I loved Puerto Vallarta was our condo. Now, I will put the name, the contact information in the description below. But basically what happened was we decided to come for a couple of days and then thought maybe we should stay longer. And so on the Facebook groups for rentals, I put this message right here, basically just giving my budget, and people reached out to me. One of the condos that they reached out to, I kind of perfectly fit into what they needed. I only needed a month, and it was before their long-term residents who come back every year come. So I think I got a deal that was probably half or even maybe 1/3 of high season pricing, and I loved it. I now believe that having 2 bathrooms, a dishwasher, and a washing machine changes 90% of the arguments you may have as a couple. It was really, really lovely. I just cannot say enough about that place. And actually, that's not all. You could drink water from the tap, which is a luxury that I don't often get to enjoy unless I'm back at home in Canada. It had a rooftop pool, it had a gym, it also had a fantastic view of the city. But most importantly, which we didn't realize, was it also had a hospital clinic down below. Now, I've made a video about Alan needing to go to the hospital and just all of that happened while we were there, but that really made a huge difference for us because the doctor there and the staff were amazing. And so you don't always plan for these things, but that made a big difference in our visit. Now, 2 things that people always want to know about and they are worried about are 1, transportation, and 2, safety. So transportation in Puerto Vallarta was so easy. Now, in my last 30-day video about Puebla, I really struggled figuring out that system. But in Puerto Vallarta, if you're in one of the tourist zones, or really anywhere, I think, it's pretty easy to get a bus. A lot of locals take them, and so it's very inexpensive. If you need to go to Walmart, to the mall, to a beach, you can get there by bus. It's actually quite easy. The only times we really took an Uber were if it were raining, we were tired, we didn't want to wait for the bus. And the Ubers are also very reasonably priced. Transportation was the least of our worries. As for safety, it was very interesting. So I think for a lot of people, things happen when you're out drinking late at night. Maybe you're coming home from the bars. That is not us. We're not out late at night. I'm actually kind of the kind of person that gets up very early, so I'm in bed also very early. So we didn't really encounter any of that, but I would say in terms of worrying about our bags, pocketing thieves, we always felt safe. Even if we were out at night, there were lots of people always around. But no matter where you are, you should always watch your things. And if you're drinking and you're going to drink a lot, it's probably better just to leave your phone at home. Now, to share some things I wish I had done differently, I've talked to you about how much I love that condo. I mean, the bed also was king size. It was such a comfortable sleep, but it was in the wrong neighborhood for us. It was in Zona Romantica, which everyone knows is kind of the bar, restaurant, nightlife scene. And in September, in the beginning, it wasn't so bad. As we got closer to October, it started to get quite loud and definitely wasn't our scene. Not just for the noise, but actually, we really like to go to like small coffee shops, comedores, local food. You know, we're in the chill era of our lives, and so it wasn't really right for us. I can see why people move farther down the coastline, or they move into the Versailles neighborhood, or Versailles, or Versailles. I don't know how they pronounce it there, but it definitely, I think, might have been a little bit of a better fit for us. But I would say overall, I'm still glad that I chose that condo, but it wasn't a long-term fit for me. The thing that was probably the most frustrating and the most surprising was that inside our condo, we had fantastic Wi-Fi, but the agent warned us that outside, data could be an issue, and it really was. We had Telcel, which is like the best provider, the most expensive, but you could be on one street and get 5G and move on to the next and not have data service at all. It was very strange. We had to make sure that we always had Google Maps downloaded onto our phone, and it was just one of those things that just seemed odd. And I think it's because there's so much construction going on right now in Puerto Vallarta. It is really expanding quickly, and that actually worries me a little bit because it's only going to get more crowded, busier, louder. It's definitely going to change, and perhaps along the coast there's space for that, but in Zona Romantica I think it will put a lot of pressure on infrastructure, and maybe it won't be as nice of an experience as we had when we were there. And finally, the thing that I thought was a little bit interesting was the tipping culture in Puerto Vallarta. So it is a tourist destination, and in Mexico, if you go to places like Puebla, it's generally 10%, but if you're in like a Cancun, a Playa, you know, all of those resort towns, expect to pay 20% tip. Prices are definitely higher there, but what was interesting was I think it's getting a little bit out of control because tipping is for service, but in some cases, like at the bus station, the convenience store had a tip jar. I don't know. I don't tip at the convenience store. I brought my stuff, I brought it to you. That's just not something that I would do. I do believe in helping locals, but I believe in respecting them for giving them money for good service. I don't think it belongs at a convenience store. Let's get to the fun part. How much did I spend to live in Puerto Vallarta for 1 month? Now, not surprisingly, accommodation was my biggest expense. Condo in the heart of Zona Romantica with the pool, the gym, the fully stocked kitchen, laundry, king-size bed, and 2 bathrooms. That was 16,000 Mexican pesos. I had the option to pay by the meter for electricity or pay a flat fee of 2,000 Mexican pesos, which I chose. And that is because other condos were telling me that it was roughly 1,500 to 2,500 for electricity. And I don't want to have to worry about turning on or off the AC. So we enjoyed all of the electricity and we're happy to pay the extra 2,000. The second expense was transportation, and actually this was a bit higher than we expected for a good reason. So we spent $70 US, $25 of that was for buses, and we went everywhere all the time. It was very easy to take the bus around and very cheap. Very quick as well. The buses basically run like every 5 minutes. But I did spend $45 in Uber. And that was because Alan went to the hospital and I had to go back and forth several times, and La Jolla Hospital was a little bit of a distance. So I spent a little bit more than I wanted, but to be honest, $45 per month for Uber is not so bad at all. And then something that changed dramatically when we came to Puerto Vallarta was a shift in how we spent money. Now, as I said, I have been traveling for the last 15 years, so to come to a place that has a fully stocked kitchen with appliances, with an oven, with a dishwasher, everything you could possibly need, we really settled down and actually cooked almost all of our meals. So there were places that we wanted to try, traditional food that we wanted to try, that we went out with a purpose. But if there wasn't something specific we were looking for, we pretty much ate at home. Now, I do think the cost of food wildly differs based on who you are, how you eat, if you go out, what kind of things you want to go out. We live a lifestyle where I cook from scratch, and when we go out, we're always eating at the comedores, at the markets. Like, the things that we're interested in is traditional food, and so it's a little bit cheaper than if we're going into the restaurants, drinking margaritas. It's just different. So we spent $300 on groceries, which I think is about $75 a week. It is $75 a week. And we were eating meat, protein, seafood. Some of it was from Walmart, some of it was from Soriana, some of it was from the market, some of it, to be honest, was from Oxxo, because if you run out of bananas, I'm not going all the way to Walmart or the market. We also bought from little tiendas, and I would say the price of groceries there is actually quite affordable. Now, if you're looking for steak, you're probably going to pay a lot more, because if you don't want Mexican steak and you're looking for Canadian, American, or Australian, yeah, you're going to pay those prices, but that was not really what we were looking for. Now, if you're looking at eating out, this is really where it will vary between you and me. We only spent actually $150 eating out. So not even $50 a week. And that is because we were eating mostly traditional food. We were having menú del día. We were having tacos, which were pretty much 25 pesos a taco, maybe a little bit more if you wanted a premium ingredient. But I thought the quality of the tacos, the seafood, was great there. And so we didn't really spend a lot of money on it. Now, food here was more expensive than Puebla and Oaxaca, but I think that is pretty normal for being a coastal tourist city. And if I look at those prices compared to, say, Cancun, I'm sure it is much cheaper. I think you can eat on a budget in Puerto Vallarta, or you can blow all the cash you want. It kind of has something for everyone. I also allocated $75 for activities and miscellaneous expenses, and this is because I do keep an Excel sheet and take pictures of all of our receipts. But sometimes I forget, sometimes I don't get a receipt, sometimes you give cash tips to people instead of putting it on a card. And so that kind of covered all of the little things that I could not account for in my bank account. And then finally, something that I did not include in my Puebla video, but I should have, is that we are traveling in Mexico and we have health insurance. I will put the QR code and the link down below to what we use, because if you watched my health scare video with Alan ending up in the hospital, you know you need to have health insurance. This is not the time to say, I'm going to save a little bit of cash and put it towards an extra margarita. In Mexico, it can be very expensive. We ended up spending almost 100,000 pesos in less than 12 hours. It was pretty scary. And so we do have Safety Wing, and we pay together $150 a month. And I'm actually going to upgrade our package to the higher level, because it offers a lot of things like going to the doctor and regular medical procedures that are not emergency based. I think is best for us, as we do not live in our home countries. All right, drum roll. We spent $1,720 in Puerto Vallarta for 1 month. Now, I think that was really because we visited in September. It was low season. We got a really great deal on that condo, and that condo was amazing and had all of the amenities we needed to really cook at home. When I look at previous 30-day wrap-ups, we've spent basically basically almost as much on food as we do on accommodation, and that is even still eating traditional food and eating in local places. And so I would say that if you are looking to visit, September is a really great time to go. Now, would I stay in Puerto Vallarta longer? It's interesting. The longer we stayed, the more that we realized it wasn't quite the right fit for us. When we went to the other towns around, San Pancho, Sayulita, Lo de Marcos, Bucerías, San Pancho was actually quite nice. It was very small, but had a lot of activity, a lot of energy, but it was very quiet and chill. And so I think that would be a little bit more something along our lines, because we don't really need to have a big drinking scene, and we're really not into the crowds. So to live somewhere in Puerto Vallarta, I would say it would definitely have to be outside the core, because during high season, I could see how that could get really quite annoying. Now, in the next video, I'm in a new place, and you can see it's really green. I've been trying to avoid the sun, the leaves, but we are in Guadalajara. Just to give you a little bit of preview about it, again, this is a place that we weren't sure if we were going to stay here long, but the change of scenery, being in the mountains, this is Mexico's third largest city. Mexicans love it. Everyone in Puerto Vallarta was so excited for us to go here. And when we arrived, we immediately knew why. We love this place. So in the next video, I will see you in Guadalajara, and I'm going to share with you why you should visit. See you then.